Stargate Voyager.
Well, I am super excited to be joined by two researchers, explorers, YouTubers. They kind of do it all. Nikki Anna Jones and Michael Collins, otherwise known as Wandering Wolf. How you guys doing?
Good.
Good. How are you? Thank you for having us on, Derek.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Excited about this. You guys recently got back from Turkey, traveling the world, and you went to Gobekli Tepe. I believe you went to Karahantepe and documented so much great video content. And it seems like Turkey and Göbekli Tepe and these sites have been in the news so much lately, so much controversy. So I'm just excited. I want to hear it straight from the horse's mouth. You guys who were there, what you saw. And but before we jump into that, would love to just get your quick take on the latest controversy surrounding the Great Pyramids and the Khafre Pyramid and these alleged discoveries. I'd love to hear each of you real quick, just your instant take.
I actually just talked to Muhammad Ibrahim like earlier today. I interviewed him, but I am not as skeptical as everybody else is, which is odd. I listened to 2 days ago that Felipe, like the two scientists came out about it, the people who are doing the radar scanning. And my biggest thing about it before it started was that they should have had controls. Like they should have showed what Derinkuyu looks like but verify places that we already know what they look like underground before you come out swinging the big guns with like the pyramids. But they apparently did. And they haven't actually released the scientific paper yet. But they even were showing on this interview with that Jay Anderson guy, Project Unity, it was like showing like this like what it looks like on the bridges and this and that. And they were saying that even from different coordinates and different places, like it's not like it only showed these particular angles from one area. They could get it to do it from every which angle. And they ignored it for 4 years themselves before they finally started going like, I think we're picking up on something more than we think we are. And okay, so that's one thing. So like I think I was because I was like, this is crap. I don't like this. And I was like, how are you going to get, like, at first I was super, super skeptical. But then the other thing is, okay, they are on something. They're not just laying on bedrock. Like every single one of those blocks weighs between like 1.5 to 50, 100 tons. I mean, you're talking about like, you have buses to SUV to like Boeing 737 size in weight of blocks. If you have that just on the bedrock or you have that on whatever sand or whatever kind of soil, you're going to have a lot of shift if there isn't some crazy underground. The amount of weight of the pyramids in general, like, means that there should be some crazy kind of structure to hold them up and them to be like even within like 1/8 of an inch even now, even if you want to say they're 6,000 years old or whatever much mainstream people or not mainstream people claim they're old as hell. There's got to be some kind of crazy structure underneath there. And there's so many rumors for so long, even if you want to take like the Osiris shaft or the subterranean chamber that's up below ground. I do think it's a whole underground city that we're just not allowed to explore. That's my take.
And let me ask you real quick, does Muhammad kind of share those same feelings?
Yeah, he was like, oh, he's like, oh, everybody who's around it all the time has known forever that there's all these underground tunnels. So he's like, I'm not at all surprised. He's like, and I don't care. He said something like, he's like, I don't care what those scans show you one way or the other. Like I could have told you there were underground. There's an underground city underneath there. And you know, there's a lot of there's a lot of rumors that there's underground tunnels that run from Saqqara all the way to the Giza Plateau. And I've heard that like whether I don't know, I've heard that like in 20 different articles I've read throughout my life. I mean, that's not just like a one person saying that. That's something that is kind of rumored about for a long time.
I think it's on my end. I don't know if skeptical is the right word, but I'm more reserved. I think I've kind of stayed out of this one and haven't really wanted to throw my hat into the ring for one side or the other, just to kind of wait and see some of the data gets peer reviewed or looked over better and things come out, I don't think that we're gonna, unfortunately, I don't think like we're just all of a sudden because of this information, people outside of certain positions within Egypt are going to get access to just go look and verify any of this. I can't see any of that happening anytime soon. I believe that there's underground stuff going on there. Like Nikki pointed out, this is stuff that's been written about for a long time, and people that have like had opportunities to like get down there and explore a little bit have talked about this. And so I think there's absolutely stuff down there. And I think it's a really unfortunate situation because, like I said, I don't think anybody's going to allow any outside person to actually go down in there and investigate. I just can't see, the Egyptian government or you know, uh, anybody in charge over there allowing anybody outside of
I agree with that.
people involved in the government there having access to any of that. And even if they did, I don't think they'd release it. So I think this is more of something that it's going to be a head scratcher for a long time. And, that's unfortunate. But I think that's probably the reality of the situation.
I'm excited about the potential for this discovery, alleged discovery, especially if they can kind of prove their method. Like many people have talked about, if they can scan a chamber that we already know exists and then say, look, here's our scan, it shows the exact same thing, then I think there's going to be way less skeptics. But I think you're right, guys. They're not going to just let outsiders truly go down there and reveal what's down there. But I've told people, no matter what happens with this, well, first of all, I like what Christopher Dunn said. If this turns out to be a nothing burger, it's a more compelling theory than the pyramids as tombs theory. I like how he
True.
put that.
Yes, agree. I don't know. Are people still holding on to that the pyramids were tombs?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I thought
Yeah,
we were past that a while back, but
right. But no matter what happens with this, I believe we already have the smoking gun proof for lost ancient technology in Egypt, lost civilizations. Just when we go inside the pyramid itself, when we go to the Aswan quarry and you see the 1 meter scoop marks all along these massive monstrosities, they literally had some ancient device that could penetrate and pull out these 1 meter scoops from top to bottom, 1 meter wide, I should say. And you guys have probably seen that box in the Cairo Museum. It's literally sliced on the left side. I mean, there's so many little
Oh, with the
things like
skull
that.
mark. Yeah.
There was more going on than we've been told, and so it's exciting to say nonetheless. But let's talk about Turkey. So much to get into, so much man, hand wringing over this site,
yeah.
mainstream, and kind of us in the alternative history camp. So maybe you guys could just kind of give a quick brief overview of kind of the controversy and how this all started within the last couple of years, it seems like, and then what led to your trip down there, what you saw, and we'll just riff on it.
I think a lot of the controversy started when Jimmy Corsetti from Bright Insight really started pushing hard against the trees. There's really started, obviously Göbekli Tepe is its own thing, and it was. It's the oldest site in the world. It has all these implications behind it. It's rewriting history in real time in terms of our understanding of so apparently hunter gatherers or whatever created these structures, right? So it was already a huge, massive site on the radar and everybody's radar. But I think it really started kicking off the controversy when Jimmy started pointing out these trees on the site. And that continued to escalate. Now, Nikki and I were doing a tour in November this year coming up to Turkey. And so we were going over there already to kind of scout ahead, make sure we knew what we were looking at and had seen all this stuff, right? We had an opportunity to pair up with Jimmy. We kind of kept it all under the radar just because of all the controversy going on between Jimmy and the archaeological community, as well as the Turkish government. So getting over there, when we got to Göbekli Tepe, obviously we wanted to see the site, but we wanted to document the trees too. And we happened to be there on the very last day that they were removing the trees. So we actually got to film them in real time, removing the very last of the trees and hauling them off. And so, I think, especially for Jimmy, it felt like an accomplishment. Like I've traveled all around the world. I've seen the damage trees can do. I know the argument is that olive trees roots are shallow and blah blah blah. It's not worth risking. And
Right.
that
And for those who don't know, there was an orchard of olive trees on top of like they have radar, ground penetrating radar scan that shows there are active ruins, or a lot of ruins underneath where they planted the trees, just so
yeah,
those who aren't clued into what was going on. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, and I think yeah, Nikki's 100% right there. And I think what really surprised us when we got there was the construction of the roofing system and walkway for tourism, because these pillars pierce directly into the heart of the site. So they built a major structure and installation with massive steel beams that penetrate directly into the heart of the site. I
Yeah,
mean,
and to give
not
people an
around it,
idea,
in it.
it's only 5% excavated, supposedly, and
Right.
there's 95% of it that still remains excavated. And they like took 4 enclosures and like, we're gonna stick and it looks like some sort of, you know, I mean, yeah, the structure itself looks like something they would put up at some massive stadium structure, even though it doesn't even do its purpose because snow and rain and stuff can still get in. It just maybe covers it from the sun, but it doesn't protect it from all the elements. So it's kind of
It,
bizarre because it's like they half-assed it and they did it in a bad way while destroying other parts of the site.
and I think that brings up a great point. What you just shared there, Nikki, is that and this is what we talked about on site, was that it clearly, this roofing system and the way that the walkway for tourists is built into the site, all of this was built for tourism. Not the number one goal here wasn't protection of the site or preserving the site. The number one goal of that roofing system was to facilitate tourism. And
And it looks kind of cool. Like it's got an architectural element to it that's like from
right.
far away, it's kind of got like it looks like that opera house in Australia, or I don't know, it looks like kind of cool, right? But when you get up there, it's totally non-functional. And as a consumer or like a person viewing it, I don't really feel like you get a good view of Göbekli Tepe either, because you have to like zoom in with your camera on everything because it's like, it's like the most impersonal way to see it as well.
Yeah. Well, there's so much you've said already that I want to dial more into. Okay, so here we have one of the oldest, most important ancient sites on the planet, Göbekli Tepe. And that's just a mind-blowing stat you shared, Nikiana, that only 5% has pretty much been excavated of this site. And so we're looking at 5% of this huge site. And they went ahead and planted these olive trees over the top of it, which, like Michael said, these roots will eventually start to damage this site. The light that Jimmy was shining on the subject of the trees, and then you guys, you're basically saying because of the public uproar, they literally went and removed the trees, correct?
Jimmy created enough controversy, and he's got a big enough platform that he created enough public pushback that it appears that he forced their hand to remove the trees off the site. Um,
Yeah.
Now, there's archaeologists coming out saying that this was in the works already. They can't cite a single. So there is a like an action report for the site or something where they were. Jimmy went and found all that, and there's nothing in any of those reports about tree removal or anything that dates to the time pre this public backlash and outcry. So it appears they're trying to rewrite, their mistakes over the last year to 2 years, in standing in defense of these trees and them being on the site. So it's like they're doing this 180 publicly. And let me just be clear real quick, because it's really just a handful of archaeologists that, and they're the same ones now that are defending, since we've started releasing and sharing footage of the pillars that pierce into the site. They're defending this as well, which I find hard to believe. And we briefly talked before we got on here, and you made a great point, and I've thought about this as well, is that it's really odd to me that the ones that benefit the most from a structure like this, myself, content creators, tourists, and stuff like that, are the ones speaking out against it, protecting the site and questioning these decisions, as opposed to archaeologists who should be the loudest voices against these things. And it's troubling.
Well, and what really disturbed me about the trip the most, even more than like the actual structure, is, Göbekli Tepe is one of many like it in that same region, that same area. There's Karahantepe, which we'll talk about in a minute. And then like we went to one called Sabek, or I don't know how to pronounce it. Like it's like
Sayberg. Yeah.
Sayberg. Yeah, it's got weird little numbers or things on the letter. And then I saw there was a mapping of at least 5 or 6 other ones in the area with the same time period. And we went to Sayberg. They put, I mean, we can send you images of that. Like they put this horrible metal roof all the way down. There's diapers in the enclosure. Like I saw people using parts of the bricks from the site in their I don't know, whatever, they're like fencing.
Fence
There's
walls.
Yeah, they're fence walls. There's stuff like there's this huge, it's like the biggest pinch hole. Like I don't know if it completely goes through. There's this really cool like square enclosure one that's just half broken, sitting on the outside. I can't tell you how much looting I intuitively know happens, because like one of the biggest pieces that I had seen like 5 or 6 years ago was, it has like these 3 or 4 little animal, I don't know if they're little piglets or dogs or whatever. They're kind of, they're like relief sculpture on the edge of this big boulder that has a big square on the outside and these little pitted holes in it. And I'm like, woohoo, this is amazeballs. And I was looking forward to seeing that when I went there. And of course it wasn't there. This is at Göbekli Tepe. And then so when we went to the main museum where all the stuff is housed, it wasn't there either. So I'm on
Oh, wow.
Twitter, like, hey, where's this at? And then, you have everybody and their mama's dog giving you a different reason. Hugh Newman's like, I think they reburied that. And somebody else is like, oh, it was looted. And somebody else is like, oh, they broke it. Or they sold it off. I still have no way to actually verify what happened to that piece. That's like super, I'll send you an image of that too, but it's super amazing. And then you're kind of going like, especially at some place like Karahan or Saybeck for sure. Like I don't understand what's stopping these people from just going in and like taking a little sculpture and being like deuces. It's really kind of interesting, the level of I don't think, if this is supposed to be, there's reports anywhere between 8 to 15,000 years old. Like this is before this, not the Hagia Sophia. What's it called? The one in Malta, that underground. It's
Hypogeum.
that was supposed to be the oldest man-made big structure before this. Okay, and that's 8,000 years. These are all supposed to be between 9 to 15,000 years old, verified by like actual archaeologists. Okay, if you're talking about a thing that special and that important to the human history, you think you would give it a little bit more, respect and credence than they have. Like, I just feel like they're kind of like, they half-ass do it. It looks like they destroy stuff in the making of it, and they don't protect it once it's dug up. And then when they do put something up, it's like for show. It's not really for true protection. And it's weird to me because it's like, we're not talking about like, oh, they're just poor and they don't have a lot of resources. At this point, we have enough people on board. People talk about Göbekli Tepe, even Joe Rogan, like in mainstream media. Like the people who aren't even into this stuff know the name of it. It should be, if you're going to enclose it, fine, do it properly, excavate the whole site and really take good care. And like, we're not saying like, oh, just don't cover it at all. Or we're not saying like,
Right.
like that. Yeah, we're saying give it the proper, like attention that it needs and the proper care. I don't feel like it's
Like,
cared for very
With Göbekli Tepe, just to give a little bit of the details, like basically Göbekli Tepe Göbekli Tepe is run by the Doges Group, which is affiliated with the WEF. In 2016, they signed a 20-year agreement with the Turkish government for an investment of $15 million into the site. It's clear where the $15 million is going. It's not going into excavation. It went into site development. So you got the roofing system that's built directly into the site, walkways, pathways, drives, ticket booths. You have a visitor center, a restaurant. You have a media center and walk through
That has replicas, but
media
nothing real
presentation.
inside it.
You have busing transport systems. And then at the front, they're in the process of building a resort, a hotel resort on site at the front of the properties there. And that's under construction right now. So this is where the money is going. So Göbekli Tepe has been sold off. And so when they talk about doing, these reasons for not excavating the site and it potentially being 150 years before they finish excavating the site, which is the number that they're throwing around. These are numbers that have been given to them by whoever's in charge that's doing deals with these groups that manage the site for tourism. And archaeologists are repeating these talking points online when they're railing against us on Twitter. And that's basically what's going on at Göbekli Tepe in a nutshell. It is now the primary focus there is tourism. I've visited hundreds of sites all around the world on every continent, and there is nothing different about this site now in terms of tourism value than some of the other major sites in the world, which is unfortunate. And Nikki brought up a good point. It's 5% excavated, and you have dozens of other sites in the area that could be excavated. There's no plans to, and they're doing the same thing at Karahantepe. Karahantepe is in the process of getting its roof built, and they have a visitor center in place already that's going to be built. And they already have the exact same design for the road system and transport system that's being built there. And currently, the visitor center, the permanent visitor center, is being built there at Karahantepe, and it's going to be a massive complex building.
And when we were like looking at the holes that are going to be where they are putting the thing, they like there's broken pot. I mean, like they just go in, they just drill into the site. It's like, oh, if we break something valuable, so what? Oops.
So I have released what Nikki's talking about. I released the video last week showing the holes where they've dug into the site and the walkways that are feet above. I mean, some of them are this close to the T pillars they're built directly over. And now, Flint Dibble and Milo Rossi did a live stream together recently, basically bashing Jimmy for standing up against some of this stuff. And we're laughing at the idea that any of us would think that they wouldn't plan accordingly to put those poles in. Now, I'm going to assume, and I don't think it's a far stretch, that these guys have never done a day of hard manual labor in their life. But putting giant, massive steel poles like that into the ground requires dozens of people, heavy machinery, cranes lifting these poles, lowering them down in, being guided in by workers. You're talking about workers walking all over the heart of that site to get those poles in place. And I'm not even getting into the process of digging the holes down. We've documented the holes being dug down 20 feet in the middle of these sites. And that's for Karahantepe, which has a smaller roof. And now the only way to support a massive roofing system like that, you dig down like that, 20 feet deep, and you're going to fill the hole with concrete. You're going to put the pole down in there, fill it with concrete, let that sit so it has a stable base, and then attach the next pillar, steel beam pillar to that goes up and connects to the roof. And that's
and I have pictures of this hole, like it's through the active site. Like whether it hit like an amazing statue or not, I don't know, but you can see that it's through like the same wall material, the same like pitted stones, the same like carved out man worked like it's part of the site that they're literally digging through. Which is just weird
So,
to me.
yeah, you would think that these archaeologists would be the first ones to want to defend protecting this site uh, from having orchards planted over the top of it, from having all these roads and walkways slapped down over the site, like you guys are talking about. I saw your photos and videos of this. It was just surreal. These poles, these posts going deep into the ground. You'd think they would be the first ones, but it's you guys, it's Jimmy bringing this to light. And again, I'm just still blown away that it's 5% excavated, yet they would build the structure over it like it's finished, right?
It's not at all.
And
Yeah.
and then let's talk again, Michael. You brought up they've thrown out the stat of 150 years, and
Yeah, they keep throwing that number out.
like you stated, money is not the issue. They have, I think you said, a $15 million grant or deal. Like they've got all kinds of money, but they
Not to
don't.
mention, it cost us for the five of us to get in there was well over $100. Like
Wow.
it's not even like it. I don't know how cheap that would be even for a Turkish citizen, but I mean, like it was. It's not like it's $5 to go there. I mean, it was like 25 plus per person to go there.
So that's crazy. And then the cherry on top of all the craziness is the fact that they don't want to excavate it for fully for 150 years. They want to leave it for future generations, I think the quote is, right?
Right.
Talk to us a little bit about that and how could they even come to that viewpoint?
Here's the deal. The archaeology happens, and I don't, we talked about this also briefly, is that before we started today, is that I don't think archaeologists actually have a full understanding of what goes into developing a site to the
Or a
end.
full say. I think
To
that
the end.
they're not into the building of the infrastructure. I think they're
Right.
into the they don't necessarily there's somebody else is in charge of the facilities, I think, for me. Like that. I
No,
don't know
they
that this
are for sure. And I think that's what
yeah.
happens is archaeology happens up to a certain point of excavation. And that point, kind of per my research, I mentioned I'll be releasing a video in the next couple, probably end of the week or next week, that documents all of this from my travels for the last almost 10 years and showing examples of this is that archaeology pretty much happens up to a certain point of around 5 to 10% of a site of major sites, right? So let's just use Göbekli Tepe for an example. 5% excavation of that site is all that's needed to turn it into a major tourist destination that pulls in millions and millions and tens of millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars a year, right? So why invest more in excavating the site? So there's a point where in discovery of a site, excavating a site, and things shift over into developing the site for money for tourism. So there's a brief overlap, and then the priority changes and shifts to tourism and development. And that's what's happened at Göbekli Tepe is we have fully moved past the point of archaeological work into tourism development. And the 150 years is, I think, a talking point that's created in a business meeting that's then thrown out. And then archaeologists who aren't in the know champion this idea and they parrot it online
And
unknowingly.
they say they'll go, this is
They trust that what they're being told is
but they'll
accurate.
say to you, "Oh, in 150 years we will have better technology so
Right.
that we can excavate it more properly or that we can have the ability to properly care for it better in 150 years than now." That's what the quote unquote reason that's given.
Right. And
I don't know.
I think we've already seen how much Göbekli Tepe specifically is, reshaped the narrative around our history. And I don't know that, you really start getting into big conspiracy ideas here. But this is where big powers come into play that don't want to, rewrite history. It's inconvenient. And it's amazing to me that the amount of people on average who just actually really don't care or are willing to place profit over, preservation or learning or understanding our history and adapting to new knowledge. But it's unfortunately, it's the way things go. It's the system that's in place now around the world. So this isn't unique to Turkey. Turkey is just the hot button issue right now in terms of this. But this is everywhere at every major site in the world, without exception.
I
Um,
mean, and the reconstruction thing becomes another cringe element that they start doing. Like, I mean, Mike has recently been pointing out on his video, like showing all the places that they when they reconstruct it, they use concrete and they like start building like their idea of what they think it looked like. Then there's that element that starts popping into it too. So it's it's complicated though, because I mean, at the same time, like I like want to go see these things and I want something to see, but
and I don't want to bum everybody out, but here's another thing. Because of the system that's in place, in the video that I'm talking about, I've been working on this for several months, and it's coming out within the next week, showing all of these examples around the world. Is that we, as independent content creators, are also going to have to start looking at the things that we get really excited about differently. For example, in the video that I have coming out, I'll be showing clear examples of day laborers taking ancient stones and cutting them with modern stone saws to fit them into place into a wall that they've decided should be there. And these blocks aren't going into their actual places. They're just cutting them to shape and then putting them into walls. And I'll show all of that in the video. A lot of these things that we all really get excited about sometimes, like these stone saw cuts and stuff in different places, that some of them may have been done in recent times. Some of these things like drill holes, I'm not saying all of them because I don't believe that. I know for a fact that some of these things were created in ancient times. We know that.
definitely the nubs are
You
ancient.
shared a great example of that with the Egypt, um, the box. But some of these stones and some of these places, they drill holes and run rebar through stuff to fit blocks together into walls, and they cut these stones with saws. And we're for us, we're really going to have to start paying even more attention to what we're looking at and whether it's real or not. And it's really unfortunate to see the way these things are being treated, and these sites are being treated around the world.
When you're talking about these sites and modern man remaking them, I think of Tiwanaku. I was there last year, and one of these most ancient sites on the earth on the other side of the planet. And if you didn't know any better, you'd think, oh, look at that's the ancient wall they just unearthed. Like you're saying, they've propped up these huge, really weathered megaliths and then just piecemeal the wall together of their own
Yeah.
small blocks. It's like
Yeah.
that
Those
doesn't
were
make sense.
None of that was there when they found that. Yeah. The wall with all the faces.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was nothing in between those megalithic blocks originally. And we talked about earlier, places like Chichen Itza and Teotihuacan, they're all just concrete. That's all
Yeah,
concrete.
Mexico's a prime example of this. They've rebuilt a lot of the Mayan pyramids. And I mean, like if you go to Tikal, in Guatemala, it is like walking in New York City, except it's covered in like I don't know however many feet thick of vegetation. Like you can't see that many rocks. I mean, you could tell that there's a structure here or there, but the stuff that you can tell that is all been reconstructed. So I mean, it's you really have to start questioning what they're using as their model of how they're reconstructing it. Because conservation is different than reconstruction.
Right.
Conservation is just trying to preserve what you find there, and reconstructing is trying to make it look like what you think it would have looked like and to use any ways possible.
And
So there's a big difference, and I really don't believe with reconstruction, or I don't agree with reconstructing places.
And when Michael, when you say it's concrete, so you're saying like, for example, at Chichen Itza, the Kukulkan Pyramid, the biggest one there, you're saying that's basically been reconstructed just with a lot of cement concrete in there.
Yeah.
The mortar. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it didn't look the way you see it now is not how it was found.
Right, when you see the old photos, yep.
Yeah, and a lot of the way it was reconstructed, um, yeah, all it's concrete, um, holding that together, and the stairs and the construction of it. Um, the same with Teotihuacan and the Pyramid of the Sun and the Moon and all that. At least in Mexico, when you go to these sites, what they do is they put little dots in
Yeah.
between the stone, and there'll be little dots going running through it, and you can see it. They're on every structure there in Mexico. You can see at least at Teotihuacan, and there's those little dots, and that shows where it's been reconstructed. So it's like their way of showing
Like,
you where it was reconstructed. So they at least show you that there, but they don't do that everywhere else in the world. So when you look at these old pictures of places like Baalbek and stuff, and there's the old ones, and there's like holes in the wall, like these V-shaped collapsed portions of the wall. Well, when you go there now, that wall's reconstructed, and it just looks crappy. It's like the blocks don't fit together, and it's clearly out of place and was restacked, right? Well, that's because that's what they did. They just and probably cut those stones so they could even lift them up there and restack them. And so a lot of what you're seeing, like at Baalbek around the top and the outside of these perimeter walls, are these restacked stones, and they probably did the same process that they're doing that I documented in Cambodia and different places where they're just day laborers come in, they take these blocks, they cut them with stone saws to manageable pieces that they can then lift and stack into these walls, these massive stones that they can then use these mini cranes to lift and put up there.
Mm.
And that's how it's done. And some of the laziest stuff is when there's some of these sites, they just take straight concrete bags and shove them into walls. And I've documented that as well. That's going to be in the video. That's in Lebanon, places like Tyre and different places. There's just concrete bags shoved into walls and stacked. Some of these wall systems that run along these areas at the ancient sites, they're not even ancient stones. They're bags of concrete stacked on each other. And then they may come in eventually and cut them off and shape them so it looks old. They do that, but it's just bags of concrete. It's
Wow.
and to
crazy.
be clear, we're not saying everything there is fake or anything, but it's just
Right.
it's that like they're giving you a different story than might actually be.
Yes.
So two more questions about Göbekli Tepe, and then I want to hear about some of these others. So it sounds like we got a win with them removing the orchards. Do you think with this public pressure that you guys and Jimmy are shining a light on, do you think it will push them to start excavating more or faster at Göbekli Tepe? I mean, you think of these massive T pillars, these 3D zoomorphic depictions on the pillars. I mean, what else is hidden, right, that needs to be found? So do you think
Yeah.
they'll push their timeline with excavation more? And then secondly, uh, what was your guys' takeaway from being at Gobekli Tepe, seeing these T pillars? Like, what just blew you away and amazed you?
Let me let me answer the first part, and then let you jump in, Nikki. Is the answer to the first part is no. I don't think that they're going to. I don't think that archaeology and anybody that's interested in history is in charge there anymore.
Yeah, I agree with
I
that.
think the focus there is now tourism and tourism dollars and developing the area and the site for tourism. Like I said, they're building a resort there on site. Some of this stuff isn't. I don't think tourism is inherently bad, but it's the way when it becomes the priority, and it's prioritized over the excavation of the site, which it now is. That's, I think, what I have a problem. And also when it's done at the expense of potentially damaging our past before it's been excavated and looked at and researched really well. That's what I have my main issue with, and no, I don't think that they're going to excavate any further. They don't need to. If you're coming from a perspective of tourism and making money, there's no need anymore to excavate the rest of the area. And if they do, it'll be one little area here, and it'll be done the same way that they just did this main area for Göbekli Tepe, and they'll put a roof over that one too, and a walkway.
Yeah, for me, I feel like it's like Disneyland came in, and then you're going, oh, wait, before you finish putting the Animal Kingdom resort right there, we need to get, you know, some more historical archaeological stuff underneath it. And they're like, no. Like I kind of feel like that's like essentially what we're dealing with. Like that's how they treat it. They don't need to they don't need to dig the rest of that 95% of it, because the 5% they do have dug up is enough to get people to come there. So mission accomplished. Why do more?
How much more can we gain financially if we excavate this part of the site? Can we turn this into a bigger? I think what they do is if they excavate, because there is another area at Göbekli Tepe that they're excavating up on the top of the hill that they have.
Right, is on the side. That is an active site that they have.
They've stopped there for now, I believe. And I think if they do anything, it'll be after they build the resort and fully finish developing the site, and they have a resort and stuff for people. Now you're making even more money. And so okay, well, let's put a little bit into that to making this, to give a full day experience to people to have a reason to stay out here at the resort. Otherwise, I don't really see them, certainly not fully excavating. I mean, they've said as much in our lifetime that it won't happen.
It's not part of an like academy anymore, or I mean, like it was, the land was the privately owned that got sold, like this Doge group, or not Doge group, what's it called?
The Doges group.
Doges group. The World Economic, I mean, now it's like a corporate, it's a corporate thing now.
And how much of, because you know, Göbekli Tepe is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, right? Which almost all the great ancient sites are. So really, how much of that is playing a key part in all of this control as well, right? These are all United Nations, whatever that stands for, sites. So is the true purpose to excavate? I mean, again, I think of like Puma Punku, having been there last year, and again, one of the most ancient, sensational sites you could visit. You're only seeing you're probably only seeing 5% there sticking out above ground, what's really underneath. Right. Nobody seems to be touching that or digging to find out what great ruins are under here. But what amazed you guys about Göbekli Tepe? Was there anything that stood out? Anything new you saw?
It's really where it is located. You're kind of like, how the hell did they find this? And then so much looks like the same terrain. So I just looked around going like, there's no telling how much is around here. It's like on the top of a hill. It could not have been, I believe it had to have been intentionally buried, because it's not like it's in the valley of some big, you know, like landslide hit it or something. It looks to me like it would have had to have intentionally been buried. So I really, really liked the relief sculpture that's on this stuff. Like that's just, if you're saying this is as old as it is, then that really, like, then okay, then they're using some kind of tools that we aren't aware of. Like they're carving sculpture, like relief sculpture. And there's one like there's a couple little dogs that are, I don't even know what kind of animal they are, but they're very far sticking out of these pillars. So that to me was super impressive to see in person. Actually, I was like, oh, that's cool. I like that. One other thing I was going to say, my understanding, the UNESCO World Heritage was founded by Nicholas Roerich, like back in like prior to either World War I, I think. And its function is mainly what it was set up for. I don't know if it will remain this, but it's like if we have some sort of war or something, there's basically country agreements that you don't bomb these sites, but I don't know if they actually give any real money to them. It's almost like they're protective measures that like are good for wartime. That's what it was set up as initially. So I don't know how much they are active besides that.
I was really blown away with all the similarities to the sites in Malta that I noticed. It just it seemed hugely comparable in terms of the layout and structure of the site compared to the major sites in Malta. It was to the point of it being, really kind of shocking how um, similar they were in terms of their shape and structures. I thought that was really cool. I was looking for, at Malta, they've got all those the stones with all the little dimples and indentions in them. I didn't see any of those that go back to the Tepe, but that would have been cool. And then it was really hard to get over that the fact that we were just walking on top of the site. It, you know, it was it that was kind of tough to look around and realize like you're literally on top of the site the way that the the walkway and stuff was built. But yeah, I was really blown away at the similarities to Malta in terms of layout and everything.
And then you guys went to Karahantepe. So I'd love to hear about the serpentine looking head that sticks out of that one enclosure, and then the giant 7 foot humanoid looking statue.
Yeah.
I think it's called Shanlurfer man who's in the museum. Almost looks humanoid like. And then the green stone. Nikki, I saw you buy that, or a group of you guys buy that. Talk to me about those fascinating pieces.
Nikki
We
found
found a
another
second.
green stone at Hattusa. I'm sure people know of it or something, but it
I don't
wasn't
think so,
in
Mike, because
fact.
I was asking the AI, I've been researching. I don't know that anybody knows that there's two of those green stones, or at least they don't online. And then Mohammed, I talked to him today, and he's doing tours to Turkey. And he was like, oh, and there's the green stone of Hattusha. And I was like, there's actually two there. And he was like, no, there's just one. And I was like, no, 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 there are two. We found a second one. And he was like, no, there's just one. I was like, no, there's two. And then so I'm gonna have to show him the second one. And I was like, I'll show you on a map where it is. Like I know where it is. Um, yeah, there are actually two of those. They're jade. And like they say they could be serpentine, but I like when I was looking up close at them and I compared them to some serpentine, they're jade. And they're uh it's really interesting. Like the second stone we found, it was obviously like someone had tried to chisel part of it off, and there was like one smooth side and the rest was roughed. I think it was actually inside a wall at one point because there was only one smooth part. Um, so like that just gives me all other like what was really here? That's crazy. And where do you find that big piece of jade? That's a lot of jade.
It's not just like a rock outcropping. I mean, it looks precision shaped to me, that at least the
Oh,
one that
and
everybody knows about.
polish.
And we did get to see, at Karahantepe, that face sticking out of the wall was really interesting. Because it's weird. It's just like, well, obviously intentional, which is weird to just have this weird head sticking out of the wall like that. I don't know what to think about that.
And
Um,
we got to get really close to that still because
yeah,
Karahantepe is really it's not covered yet. So you get I mean like you get way closer than I thought I'd ever get to that. And that one to me had like a interesting little channel coming into it. So I almost feel like that had water in it at some point. And then there's the weird little bobble. I mean, people call them phallus symbols. I'm not really sure what those other little things that are around it, their purpose is or isn't. But yeah, it is weird. The big, tall, 7 foot guy, he looks like he's bigger than that. Um, the San Luis man who's in the museum, he's different than there's actually one that's there that how tall was that one that was there, that statue?
it's pretty big. I'm not sure. I got some great shots right up close on him.
Yeah, me too. He's
Uh,
weird. He's holding his member
Yep.
and I think something that well I've heard point out online is they all are showing their ribs almost like they were emaciated or they were all starving or something. Even the animals show their have their ribs. I don't know if that's just a stylistic choice or if it's just indicative of something they were going through. I don't know. It's really bizarre though.
Yeah,
And
he's if I remember right, he's kind of kneeling down, but it still measures seven, like 6 foot inches, I read. And then he has like I'm talking about the statue at Karahan, and then he's got like almost a helmet head or a mullet. What's going on with that?
yeah, it's hard to tell. I'm like, I thought it looked like braids or maybe like his hair's back or something. Um, but yeah, I mean, he looks like he's pretty happy. So I don't know. I mean, like, I was like, are there any other sculptures around him? Was he the only one? Is there a party going on here? It looks like that's the only one that they talked about in that thing. So I don't know.
Good.
That was cool though.
And then I saw one of you guys posted, I think it was near Istanbul, the Medusa heads. You've got
Yeah,
the Byzantine era pillars that used the Medusa heads as the foundation, which clearly predate the pillars above
right.
them. Was that
That
were
I'm
those
telling
heads
you,
from a lost civilization?
yes, they were. And they're so crazy because like I just kept on like afterwards for a couple of days, I was like, because I had seen one of those before. Actually, Mike had sent me one like a year or two ago, and I was first of all, I wasn't even astute enough to realize that they were Medusa heads with the snakes in her hair. Like I was just like, oh, it's like a dude's head upside down, cool. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I want to see that head. I didn't realize until we were there that they were there. There's two of them. They're right next to each other, and they are actually Medusa's head because their little braided hair is little snakes. And that must have been a giant, enormous, colossal group of statues that and then if you think about it like this, okay, Medusa's like a minor character in I mean, she's not like a god or something. She's just like a minor character that gets killed by Perseus or whatever. It's not like she's the main character, but yet that's like us going and like building some giant here's Ursula the Sea Witch, you guys like or whatever, like there's the Wicked Witch of the West, let's do a ginormous multiple two giant sculptures of her. I just kind of find that really like what went on here. Like for me Istanbul was crazy because there's a porphyry column that is ginormous, and porphyry is more per pound than gold is, and it was super expensive in the time then, and I don't even know why they haven't looted that thing and they still have it up there. It's like this red stone that there's no mine of it anymore, you can't get it anymore, so it's like a limited supply in the world, and it is like more expensive than gold. And so they have some really crazy things there that I'm going like what? And I know it was Constantinople before Istanbul, and before Istanbul it was Byzantine. So like in the Jesus era, it was like, or it was the Byzantine Empire. But that it just makes me go. And it was apparently the capital of Greece at one point, like way back when, like in ancient Rome. So it used to be something super crazy and special. But I just even if you're using the trash as like a ginormous head for a base of a cistern, which is like a sewage system, like man, who knows what the hell they destroyed.
Anything jump out at you in Turkey? Was there any other sites that you guys went to, or was that pretty much it, those two?
We went to Derinkuyu. So we did the underground city, which was really bizarre to me because what stood out to me on that, and you know how I'm kind of conspiratorial in a different kind of way, because I'm like, I think this was built by like non-humans, like almost like hi ho, it's off to work we go, or something. I don't know, but I just got the feel like that was like horribly depressing. If you're gonna live down there for a long, it's not in a mountain. It's just like you're like walking around like on the flat plains of nowhere, and then all of a sudden you're like, here, let's dig here, and then you put 20 feet or 20 stories down, and you build like this giant, enormous, elaborate situationship of city underground, and then I don't know how long they were in there or what, but they don't have any sculptures or they didn't make any walls pretty. There's nothing. It's all
Yeah.
kind of like I thought that was
Very
a little weird.
survival type feel. It felt
Very.
and then going through Derinkuyu will let you know how old you are. I that was that was kind of tough going through those tunnels. but it does get into chambers that open out, and you can
Yep,
stand up
there's a lot of
fully.
bending.
Yeah, a lot of bending and walking through there, crouched over. I think some of our group had an easier time than others with some of those, the height on some of those openings. But Nikki's exactly right. Like if you were doing that every day, all day, like that would just it'd be tough. So it felt more like a, and there's no like you said, Nikki, there's no like decoration, there's no like, you know,
Shelves, anything.
things that I've seen in other places that are kind of similar where you'll have cutouts into the wall where you can put things
Right. Nothing
or
like that.
lighting, and there's no soot or anything been found down there, so they weren't burning anything. So how are they getting light? Because if you go to there once you go down low enough, I mean, it's just pitch black. If there wasn't a lighting system in there, so there's
Well,
no
what
way
I
people
read,
were
there was
living
vent.
down in pitch darkness.
The vents were bizarre, and there were some of the vents where I felt air coming from below. So, and then when I was reading it, apparently there's an underground river. So I don't know how they would have known that that river, because we're talking like 20 stories down. And I think they only allow us to go, what, 8 or 9 stories down. You don't get to go all 20 stories. Um, but apparently at the very bottom there was like an underground river that it hit. And I don't know how it's almost like they built it there because of that, but I don't know how they would have known that. That's mysterious and that's weird. And that's why I think gnomes built it. And I'm sorry, I'm sticking to it. I don't care. Or whatever. Like it's just something is weird about it. And also it didn't feel good. I felt like kind of like ick feeling like I thought the vibe of the place was like it wasn't like I was going like, oh, this is gonna be so cool because I like love caves. I love like give me a stalagmite and any kind of day. I love caves, but this I didn't so love. I was like, it felt just kind of like
Oppressive.
utilitarian in a bad, weird way, or like I don't know, maybe there was nefarious stuff going on there. I don't really know what was up with it, but it just kind of I didn't like being down there.
Do you think it was like an apocalyptic bunker type situation from the ancient world? And how old do you think it is? Did it feel like it was as old as Göbekli Tepe or not really?
I don't know. It did feel pretty old. The doors were weird. It had these big like wheel stone like doors are I guess that they would close off maybe chambers or something. And we found several of those. Um but yeah, I don't but that's the thing. If you're down there surviving, eventually even I would be like I'd get a little stick and be like doobie doobie. I would draw something somewhere. Or I mean I don't know, it just felt a little like grim. Maybe it was a mine and there was something they completely took everything out that was worth a damn. I have no idea.
Thank you so much for your time. If you have a closing thought to share, and then how can people follow you, and what can they get excited about? What's your next content you're going to be putting out there, whether it's an episode or a video? Michael, I know you got stuff coming up.
So you can follow me on any social platform at WWolf PROD. So WWolf Prod. Um, on all socials, and then my channel's Wandering Wolf. Yeah, and I'll have my Gobekli Tepe videos out right now. So a lot of the stuff that we talked about here about Gobekli Tepe, you can go see for yourself. And then I'll be dropping the full expansive video that covers the entire world on this topic within the next week or so. And then I'll be speaking in Sedona with Graham and Jimmy on the 19th. Nikki will be there too. And so if anybody's coming out there, you know, uh, come up and say hello. I think we'd both love to shake your hand and meet you.
That sounds so awesome. I imagine it's already sold out, probably, right?
They opened up an overflow room so you can watch on screen from a separate room. So there are still tickets, and they're at a reduced rate because they're in an overflow room. So there are still tickets available, and then you can come and be a part of stuff like the social hours and meet and greets and different things like that are happening. So you can still come out to Sedona to the conference.
And what's that conference called? And do you happen to know the website?
Fight for the Past, I think. And It's Graham's conference. Randall Carlson will be there too. Jimmy, myself, Dandy Dunker. So it'll be good. Yeah.
What a lineup, man.
Yeah.
Man, if I wasn't preparing to leave for Peru at the end of the month, I think I might grab a flight and head down to hang out with you two.
That's a toss-up, man. I'm kind of jealous of you going back to Peru. That's awesome.
So you guys are
Very
just geeking out in Sedona. Nikki, you'll probably be doing some UFO watching.
Oh, absolutely. I'm totally gonna go. I'm into my petroglyphs and my UFOs. I like them all. But yeah, I'm Nikki Anna Jones. And it's like, that's my name's Nikki, but it's like Indiana Jones, but like Nikki, you know, everybody's like, is your name Nikki Anna? I'm like, okay. Yes. Okay. So anyway, and you can find me on YouTube, and I interview people who talk about this kind of stuff. And then I'm half on what's that one, Instagram, and then I get on X a lot. And there you go. And then and then I'm speaking at a Journey to Truth conference in May, and then me and Mike are both going to be on some panel at the Cosmic Summit when is that one?
In June, we'll be speaking at the Cosmic Summit. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, there's good, and then we're got a tour to Turkey. You guys want to see all the
fingers
tours?
crossed. They're trying to shut us down, the archaeological community. So fingers crossed we pull that off. But yeah.
Hopefully we get to go to Turkey in November. But other than
You guys are making the rounds on the circuit. That's pretty cool for the upcoming conference in April, and then you guys are at the Cosmic Summit. Where can people join you at Cosmic Summit? I'm sure there's a website, and then how can they join your tour for Turkey?
So my tour of Turkey is advertised on my website. wanderingwolfproductions.com. There's a whole section there for tours and content and all sorts of stuff. And then the Cosmic Summit, you can just go to the Cosmic Summit page. It's to their website and get tickets for June. And I believe that's in Raleigh, right, Nikki?
Yeah.
Raleigh,
Or Beans something.
North Carolina, I believe. But all the information will be on their website. You can still get tickets there. And that one's a huge lineup. That's a lot of people on that one. And we're doing a Travelers Explorer panel with Nerdrotics, Gary hosting from Nerdrotics, a bunch of kind of explorers like ourselves that've been traveling around the world and just talking about travel.
Yeah, thanks so much for your time. It was insightful to get it straight from your mouths, what's going on in Göbekli Tepe. So I think people watching this or hearing this are really going to find this insightful. And so thanks everybody for watching. Follow Wandering Wolf, aka Michael Collins and Nikki Anna Jones on their channels, YouTube, X, Instagram. They're always posting great stuff. I enjoy following them. So guys, thank you, and hopefully we'll do this again in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you.